We am going to talk about more physical intrusions that I'm doing at work and my research behind body language, but also other, I see it sort of holistically, so it's not only body language, but I'm looking at facial expressions as well as psychology behind it. So let's start. What are we gonna see? It's a little bit about me. InfoSec Hoppers is a group for women that I run. We'll see a little bit about OSINT and what happens when there's a lack of it, so when we don't have all the information that we need about our targets. Then we'll talk about the holistic approach and embodiment of vulnerabilities. We will dive into the body language. And then I realized that since I have very offensive mind or offensive thinking, I added some slides about how to protect against people like me, or, well, using the same techniques but being the malicious attackers. So, Sarka. I got this question a lot, and people are asking if Sarka is actually my real name. How does it work? Because I'm using, on Twitter, I'm using a handle Sarka as a shark with A in the end. That's just to let people like pronounce it correctly. So yeah, it's Sarka, that's Czech. And apart from being a symphony, it's a mythical warrior from Bohemia. And basically what she did in the Maiden's War, where it was uprising of women against men, she social engineered and entrapped a leader of the man and then killed him. So I think my parents knew about me more than I did about myself. So I work at DreamLab, where I do everything from research and training to breaking into buildings. It's a dream work. This is what people think that it looks like me being at work. And this is what I like to think of myself being at work. I love pirates, and I'll tell you a little bit about my first social engineering alter ego, and she was a pirate queen. So, there you go, the pirate queen. This is my fake ID that I'm using on engagements. It's for Grace O'Malley. And Grace O'Malley was a pirate queen from 16th century Ireland. That's the real her. The fake ID is from CCC conference in Germany. Me on an engagement, I might come into your office looking like this, maybe doing some sort of audit, or I might look like this. Here I was pretending to be building management engineer trying to fix their router that just was a black box trying to connect to the network. And this is me tailgating into office. I am also looking at like a different stuff, how to get into offices. So I was looking at UV powder. So it's a powder that's normally you can't see, but if you shine a light on it, you can see the powder. So my idea was if I will put it on like a pin pad, maybe then leave it there and come back and to see the pins that they were using. Well, I forgot the brush, so I used my own makeup brush, and this is how I looked afterwards. So actually, just a note, it didn't work. I found out later that it's better to use a marker. So use a UV marker, and that's how I got into a couple of offices. So I'm also involved in community, so I'm ambassador for B-Sides Cairo in Egypt, as well as B-Sides Athens. If anyone's as crazy as me, I am leaving early to actually go give a workshop at B-Sides Athens this Saturday. And I'm also co-founder of a Parisian DevCon group. If anyone is interested to speak, we'll be around, just let me know. This is another group. So InfoSec Hoppers is a group for women I co-created with Saskia Copland. We are trying to, these are actually pictures from our first CTF. As you can see, there are men involved, so it's not one of those groups that doesn't let men to come. We are also doing buddy systems, so we are pairing girls and women to go together to conferences. So, what about OSINT? In ideal world, we would have all the OSINT we need, right? We would know everything about our targets. And ideal job would look something like this. We would get target defined, perhaps a company or even office. We would do our OSINT gathering, all the ishings, as I call them, so phishing, vishing, smishing, all the ishings you want. Choose our pretext from the gathered OSINT, and socially engineer all the things. But it's not always like this. So in a case that we don't have all the OSINT, we don't have time, we were not given the time, we need to acquire different skills. So in my case, there was quite a few times where I didn't have all the information. So I need to be more reactive. I need to be able to read people. So for that, I have my holistic approach, as I call it. And the first thing that I think that is really important is to stop thinking, or at least like you. To stop your own behavioral scripts. And what I mean is, you going on an assignment, you should not think like you. You should not assume based on your own life experience how the person that you're trying to maybe manipulate thinks. You should be just using the knowledge that you gathered or research. And I see it a little bit like a virtual machine. So this is your like a main hypervisor. So that's yourself. That's just basic stuff, breathing, drinking. Then you have different VMs. So in my day-to-day life, this is what it would probably like. So my own Sarka virtual machine, Grace, the social engineering pirate queen would be switched off. And I have always a sim tool sort of analyzing all the input that I have from my life. But going on a job, it would look more something like that. So I would switch off Sarka and I would be Grace, but still running the sim tool. So first, psychology. Reality is objective, but our perception of the reality is subjective. So what I mean, right now there is one reality in this room, but everyone, each of you has a different perception of the reality. How does that serve me as a social engineer? Well, going on job, I understand that they don't know. Their perception of reality is different to mine when I'm, let's say, walking into a reception. I know probably what they are thinking because I dress certain way, I speak certain way. And if I am able to manipulate their perception of reality, I am manipulating their reality, sort of. Micro-expressions is another part of the holistic approach. So first we have the micro-expressions. So these are the longer ones. These are the ones that are more, you can easier to spot them. They are all the way to 4 seconds. Easy to control, which means easy to fake. So that's not really what I'm interested in. I am interested in micro-expressions. So these are, it could be all the way to 1/25th of a second. And in most cases, they are impossible to control. So this is what I'm looking at to see what the person is actually thinking or how they are feeling. So there are 7 of them. Disgust is one of them. You can see the nose is wrinkling a little bit. It looks like if something smells bad. So that's being disgusted. Anger. You should be careful if someone has thinner lips, because when you're angry, you put your lips together. So someone who has a thinner lips, you can be leaning towards them being angry. But there are other things like their nostrils are dilated because they are breathing in more air. Fear, you can see more of the white of the eyes and the eyebrows go up. Sadness, it's really important because I'm not trying my customers or my targets to feel bad. So seeing someone who's sad, I will probably try to skip and not manipulate that person because I am, even though it might seem like it, I am not evil. So I'm trying to take care of my customers as well, and it being a good lesson for them. Happiness is pretty self-explanatory. Surprise and contempt, that's sort of a smirk. They are universal. What it means, anywhere you go, they are the same. And it was proven by research from Dr. Paul Ekman. I'm not sure, did anyone see Lie to Me? Okay, one person. If you want to learn about facial microexpressions, this is a TV series for you. It's based on the life of Paul Ekman, partially probably, but it's great because they are telling you about all the facial microexpressions with like showing them world leaders and superstars making that facial expression, and it's a good way to learn. So now we saw a little bit about the psychology and the face microexpressions. So what's the next part? That would be the body language. To explain that, I will first dive into explaining a little bit about our brain. So we have 3 brains. The oldest one, the reptilian brain, it was when we were chased by mammoths. So that's us deciding what we are supposed to do. Well, do we chase it? Do we kill it? What do we do? The limbic brain is the one that sort of does the action, that makes us then do whatever the reptilian brain decided. Neocortex is the latest addition to our brains. It's the thinking one, it's also the lying one. So I'm sort of trying to bypass that and look at the limbic brain. So I'm looking at those reactions. I really like this. So these reactions are fight or flight. I really like the sharks, but this one sort of explains it a little bit better. So we have fight, flight. There is third one that was added only 2002. Do you know what's the third one? If you look at this little man, he's freeze, yes. So fight, flight, or freeze are the 3 reactions of the limbic brain. So what I am looking for, I'm looking for pacifying behaviors. These are when someone is, so people think that looking at the body language, it tells me if someone is lying. That's not really true. I can either see if the person is calm and relaxed or not. And that if they are not calm or relaxed, that means that maybe they are not trusting my pretext. So this is what I'm looking at. Usually men would be touching their neck, so it's to calm their blood flow. Women are usually touching a prenasternal notch here, or maybe a jewelry that they have around here. And it's basically to release the endorphins into your body to calm yourself down. I am also looking for mirroring behaviors. So that's the other way, that's the being calm and liking. Sometimes what I do, I would just talk to them and put my glasses up. And them, even without glasses, they do the same thing, which tells me I'm on a good path. So, where would you look if you're trying to decide the honesty of someone else? Where do you think that what's the most honest part of our body? Eyes? Eyes, everyone agrees? It's actually feet. And from feet up, we are losing honesty. And if you think about it, our face is the most lying part of our body. Because since we were little, your mom tells you, oh, look like you're having fun, that your Aunt Gertrude does 80th birthday, or don't look like this, don't look like that. So we are very controlling over our face, not over our feet. And I'll tell you what are the what you should be looking at the feet, but also different part of body. So let's start with the feet and knee. So the direction of our feet could tell us what's happening. One of my games that I do in the restaurant, I'm looking at couples on dates. And sometimes you know how the date will go. If the girl is with feet towards the exit, you know that's not going to go well for the guy. Clasping, feet clasping, so that's when you're like this. That means that person is sort of ready to leave. So all these things, obviously, yeah, it helps me to manipulate people, break into buildings, but it's also good for you to understand people around you or in business. Leg crossing. So if I would be standing next to you and I would cross my legs like this, what do you think what does it mean? Is it being closed, not wanting to communicate, being nervous, or is it the other way around? I'm closed, I don't want to talk to you. Actually, it's the other way around. Because remember the fight, flight, freeze? If you're in this position, you can't really fight or flight. You're so relaxed that you can cross your legs, that you're just feeling good. But if you're crossing your ankles, that means that you're sort of like that's the opposite way. That's usually when you're sitting, like that lady there. So walking tells us a lot about. So if you see someone who's the gravity sort of like goes up, the person is very positive and happy. Change in intensity. So you would maybe tell that someone starts clapping their feet, that they're nervous, but you should baseline it. Maybe that's a person who their normal state is just clapping very fast with their feet. So it depends on intensity, and you should have a look at that. So I do have two stories. This guy knew everybody. So I was getting into 8th-floor building, and there was a security guy that later I learned he knew every 800 people in the building. And I was getting into a building in the morning. I have my fake vape, so I was gonna go into the vaping, smoking area to talk to people, maybe tailgate, but there was no one. I also had 2 types of badges that I did a little bit of OSINT, but I was not sure which they are using. So I had in each pocket different badge. I got into the lobby, walking just by this guy, and he turns to me and his eyebrows go down like this, means I don't like it, and then surprise. So I knew that he knew that like I don't belong there. And he turns to me and not asking who I am, or he's just, are you visiting? So I know that you don't belong here. And so I was like pretending to look for the badge, and I was looking at his feet, and they were like this. Means I don't want to be here, but I have to talk to you. Obviously, he's one of those really nice security guys who's there usually to help. So long story short, I breached his personal space, so I stepped towards him, made him more nervous. He was asking me, I told him that you don't remember me, I was here on Friday, lie, but I knew it would make him more uncomfortable. So by the time that he wanted to see the badge, he just wanted me gone. So he didn't really inspect it. And they knew I was coming, so there was lots of times when I'm doing this like social engineering, physical security, and intrusions, people, as well as pen tests, I'm not sure if you have the same experience, but sometimes they take it as a game that they have to win. So sometimes what happens, the person that should be the only person in company should know, they inform someone else to sort of like win and be good at the pen test. So I came there, and the guy, first thing, I'm gonna be talking about hands in a minute. So he did like this, and then he's like, yeah, can you show me your documents? So like pretty much just following the procedure, like no error. But he was talking to me, and his feet were like, he was pretty much like this. I'm like, so is he scared of me? Like, look at me, I'm small, blonde, like there is nothing to be worried about unless you know. So, and then he was actually gonna go in an office, and the door was wedged, and he took out the wedge and closed the door. I'm like, yes, that guy knew. So torso, and so this part of body, leaning towards or away, that's another way how to understand if the person likes you or not, or trusts you or not. Crossing the arms, so in case of arms, you're actually protecting your body, you're protecting your vital organs, so that is defensive. It's not like the crossed legs. I was talking about when you're angry, your nostrils are dilated, so it's same with chest. When the chest is getting bigger, the person is in stress. They're oxygenating more to either fight or flight. Again, it's going back to this. Personal space, that's also cultural, so sometimes in different culture people are closer sometimes, so that you have to understand how the personal space is in your target's organization or how the culture is like. Raising the shoulders, it's a little bit like sometimes they are not sure, so if someone is unknowingly talking to you, raising the shoulders a little bit, it could be a sign that they are not trusting you so much. Receptionist who was afraid. So I got into this company that had completely new building. They wanted to test it. I did tailgate through 7 RFID readers. I found a way through a parking lot. Then I was waiting for doors. What I do, if it's women, I'm pretending to be sort of like crying on a phone with lots of stuff in my hands, and I'm like, don't call me, I told you we broke up, and like I just can't take anymore. And she feels bad for me and she lets me in. When it's a guy, I'm always like, I told you not to put the socks there, who's supposed to clean it all the time? So he's like, oh, that's a bitch, like just let her go. So I went all the way to the reception, and I found a vacant meeting room. I set up my stuff. I connected to the Ethernet port, start scanning the company, and then the receptionist came. She's like, who are you? I'm like, Grace O'Malley, I'm an auditor. She's like, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm just replacement. So she was sort of like really scared. And I will continue the story with later. So arms. Arms withdrawal, so that means that they feel in danger. You could see it when someone, I don't know if someone ever got punched, but that's usually like someone is withdrawing the arms to sort of punch you, so that they're feeling in danger. Then try to look as natural on an engagement. So someone who's sort of like afraid and freezes. I read that security guards in shopping malls, that's how they know most of the shoplifters, because they are usually very trying to look like they don't belong there, and that's how they spot them. Arms akimbo, it's this. So this one. So that's sort of like a territorial, they are actually, I think it was one of the tips for speakers, if you're feeling unsure, that before the speaking, you're meant to do the arm akimbo to like sort of feel a little bit better. Tattoos. There's a story with tattoos with Simpsons. So I got into office where I was not supposed to be. I was still trying to connect to the network, and I couldn't find any Ethernet ports. And there was this guy who was sort of like just in corner, who would not talk to me. And I need a way in. I need a way somehow to talk to him. So my favorite pretext is to do asset ID audit. That makes me talk to everyone and get to know them a little bit and makes other think that I belong. So I came to him and I said, that's what I'm doing. And he still would not talk to me. He was just on his computer. Then I saw he had on his arm the Simpsons tattoo. I think it was Bart. And I'm like, what's your name? He's like, Simpson. And I'm like, oh, that's really funny. And we like struck a conversation about Simpsons. And then and I'm like, I need to connect to network. And he's like, yeah, I don't think there is anything. I'm like, do you have printer? Yes. So I got there through their printer at work. So hands and fingers. Keep your hands visible. It's if someone keeps their hands inside, it looks like they don't know what you're doing with your hands. So if you keep your hands outside, you're more open and you're less threatening. Nervous hand, so sends important message. Again, that means that the person is perhaps stressed, and that means that perhaps they're not trusting what is it that you're telling them. Steepling, so that's what Barnes is doing. That's what, remember the guy that I was telling you about, that he knew that I was coming? That was the brief before asking me all the questions. He did like, what do we have here? So the guy already knew that I was coming, and that was a sign for me. Yeah, I was talking for touching neck, so that's part of the pacifying behaviors. And thumbs. Thumbs in pockets could mean that you have low self-esteem, but if it's we call it genital framing, where a guy stands, and I think women do it too, where you're like framing genitals, that's sort of like, again, someone who's very self-confident. Yeah, and that was the story. So I remember I was saying that I will finish the story about the receptionist. So one of the things as well with the torso, sometimes they will try put things in between if they don't trust you. And where she was so afraid, she was starting like grabbing stuff on a table and just putting it between us, because she was just so scared. And I was like, well, I'm doing the audit and I need the all access pass, like otherwise I'm going to talk to my manager. And she's like, who's your manager? And I knew from LinkedIn that he's somewhere in London, and this was not in London. And I'm like, this guy. She's like, oh yeah, he's here. Did you talk to him? I'm like, yes, I did. And I'm like, but I still need that pass. And she was so scared, she didn't know what to do. Well, she gave me the pass. So from what we were saying, can you guess a little bit what the same guy is doing in the different pictures? So we said hands in a pocket and the smirk on his face. This guy is more confident and genuine, although I would agree, and I'm not sure if I'm seeing it right, the smile looks a little bit fake. That guy seems a little insecure. Then again, the genital framing, arrogant, yeah, that could be it. But the open feet is just someone who is not nervous, who's probably self-confident. I would not say necessarily ignorant. This guy, again, I'm not sure if I closed mind. Not sure the feed looks the same. So I took it from internet, and I don't completely agree with everything. Wants to leave, yeah, maybe the 1 foot away. So cognitive dissonance, what does it mean? It's when your body is not in sync with your mind. So we can use this as a social engineers to if you make the person move in a certain way, their internal feeling is following their body. So what I'm doing, perhaps when it's receptionist, I come to talk to her and I first look down on her table, so she looks what's there and she looks up. So she already does this sort of movement of yes, and then I'm using other psychology where you are, it's like a Christmas tree, so you're like lighting up sort of certain schema in their brain. So I'm using certain words that will sort of make her think in a certain way that in the end she's gonna give me what I need or what I want. So let's get defensive. So do we have people that need to get protected against social engineers? I'm hoping, yeah, no one? No one needs to be protected? Okay, okay. Can you give me your business cards afterwards? I'm gonna come give you a visit. Okay, so I think it's really important to count with people in your networks. We are saying they are the 8th layer of OSI, but I don't completely agree. I think they are the -1 to 8, and we are the ones we are the architects of those networks. We are the ones putting in the cables. Humans are the ones configuring the networks. We are the ones building the applications, and we are the ones using them. So we need to count with the humans in our network. They just need to be just another asset. We are often saying that humans are the weakest link, but I don't agree. What does it really mean? It's just the level of access, because a human asset and your server, probably the human asset has more access. So that's why they're being targeted, not because they are stupid. This is IBM X-Force Threat Intelligence report that says the most relentless threat are insider threats, like inadvertent, it's insiders. But what does it really mean? They are just the people that are making sort of silly mistakes. And that's something that we can fight with. We can fight it with awareness sessions. We are the ones looking at our human assets, so we should know about these guys. Company culture. So, as I said, no more humans are the weakest links, and it's a culture that you need to build inside your own company. We should stop telling them that they are stupid. We should start telling them that they are actually really important. So, awareness programs. One of the things that I've been studying is how to implement fake memories. And it's really interesting. It's almost stupid easy if you have sometimes and some other conditions. But what it also made me look at is how we create memories, the memories that last. It's the neurons and the information that we are firing, and then we are creating more memories that are staying that way. So what it means. Awareness program that works. So why we are keep telling them our people more and more ways how it's possible to hack them? Why aren't we telling them this is what you're supposed to do? This is your work. This is how it looks like. And anything out of ordinary, there is a process how to deal with it. Either contact IT or contact someone from security. So my point is, we should maybe change the way that we are teaching our people. And that's it.